You're now listening to Mark Who 42 from the Whoniverse and beyond.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Radick. I was Gareth in the Doctor Who TV movie. Ask me what it's like to kiss Ryan Reynolds on the mouth. You're listening to Mark Who 42.
This episode of Mark Who 42 is sponsored by Highlander Novelties and Comics and Games. Highlander Novelties is a one-stop shop for pop and geek culture items. They specialize in the unique and throwback characters from the past and present. They carry new and back-issue comics, pop, Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering, and more. They even have decals that they make themselves and badges. Highlander Novelties is located at the West Oaks Mall in Ocoee, Florida. That's 9401 West Colonial Drive, Suite 520. That's Highlander Novelties at the West Oaks Mall in Ocoee, Florida, 34761. And tell them Mark Who 42 sent you. Welcome to Mark Who 42. Hi, I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten, and we've got a special episode. You know, it's been 2 weeks since the Christmas episode, and we haven't reviewed it. And, you know, we do this every year. We wait about a week or two to review the episode to give everyone a chance to listen to it. But that's not why it's special. We have, for you, the originals of Mark Who 42. I've got Eduardo M. Freyre and Trish Helm along with us on this ride. Hi, guys.
Hey there.
Yes. Well, hey, man, you may be Mark Who 42, but we're the original Mark Who, you might say.
Do not say. We also have another special guest, and we've had him on the show many times before. We have Jeremy Radick from Capeless Crusaders and Gareth from the 1996 TV movie.
Hey guys, good to be here.
Hey Jeremy, I'm glad you were able to stop by. And I'm assuming you've already reviewed this episode for the website.
Oh my God, no, I haven't, and I'll tell you why.
So this
I
is
was
the first.
This is the first. Everyone gets to hear my thoughts first. No, I was traveling, so I actually had to sit down at my parents' house and watch it. And I because it was Christmas and we were traveling, and I have kids. I haven't been able to write it up for the site this year, so this is the first time I'm going to be sharing whatever valuable thoughts I may have about it.
Cool.
Ooh.
That's great.
Trish and I actually watched the Christmas special at her parents' house.
Yeah, I watched it with a bunch of people at a viewing party that I was running. It was at the Old Falcon Pub in Davie, Florida. We had a great time, and of course, I did actually watch it a couple hours before the viewing party, but that's another story.
Cheater.
Hey,
Cheater.
Yeah, Mark, I was going to ask you. A few hours before it came on, all you did was post on Facebook just one phrase. I knew it. I want to know what you meant by that.
The armistice scene.
Ah, okay.
I was totally there. I also knew the Mark Gatiss, his character was ancillary, but I knew that too. But yes, I was writing, I knew it, and I wasn't giving anybody any clues what I meant. So now you know.
Thank you.
Now, Trish, you've been you're back on the show. We like it, and it's very nice to have Ed here too as well for this. Ed just did a review show on the sister show that you guys do, Keeping It Reals.
Keeping It Reals, yep.
Keeping It Reals, because you keep it reals, and you just did a review show less than 24 hours ago.
Yep. A little over 12 hours ago, actually.
12 hours ago. Oh God, it's been that short a time. So you're really ready for this.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Still have some thoughts fresh in my head.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Iggy unfortunately wasn't able to be here with us today, but Trish is here, like you can hear, and I'm actually going to do something I normally don't do. I'm going to take my leadership skills that I have honed over these past 5 years, and I'm going to pass it to Trish.
Oh, geez.
Trish,
okay.
You get to run this review show.
All right.
Wow.
So
Jeremy, get ready.
You're passing the whip to me.
Different.
Okay.
I'm excited.
Woohoo! My wife gets to run the entire show.
Yeah. Except when we have our commercial break, I'll cut in then. But I'll be rude and cut in.
So one time I'll allow it.
When am I not?
All right. So let's start off with just generally, what did everyone think of the episode? And Jeremy, why don't you go first?
Sure. Well, I really loved it. I thought that, well, maybe love's a strong word, but I really enjoyed it. I thought all the things that you kind of want from a regeneration episode, which is sort of summing up, that particular doctor's journey and where he's gone, I thought it did really well. I've always thought that Capaldi's doctor has had like the most consistent actual journey where he's a different character in many ways now than he was at the beginning. So I enjoyed seeing the culmination of that. I thought it was really, really warm and really kind of, there were lots, and we'll get into it in more detail, I'm sure, as we go along, but there were lots of ways that the whole era of Stephen Moffat was tied up interestingly and well and warmly. I did think that from a plot point of view, from an actual narrative construction point of view, when you think about it, and I watched it twice before coming on today, the second time I watched it, I'm like, not a lot really happens. Like in terms of incident, there's not really much of a story. It's really a collection of like 3 to 4 scenes, and then it's end. There's not a tremendous amount of tension, but I was okay with it because what I really wanted to do was have a nice goodbye to all of these aspects of the show that I had really enjoyed. So overall, I really, it's got a warm place in my heart. If you pressed me on like what exactly if I hadn't watched it twice very recently, if you'd pressed me 3 years from now, what was Twice Upon a Time really about from a plot point of view, might be a little hard pressed to remember all the beats because I don't think it's memorable. But as I say, I think it was warm and it was loving, and that was a nice experience to have on Christmas Day.
All right. I can agree with you on a lot of those points. Mark, what did you think?
Well, I love the episode for what it was. It was a Christmas episode. It followed the Christmas type of episode very well. It was funny. It was heartwarming. There were tears by the end of it by the audience. I agree with Jeremy. There was no plot. I mean, they even say there's no evil to fight here. What do I do with it? How am I supposed to go on with this? Even Capaldi wasn't sure what was going on. He was
right.
But I did like the writing. I thought the writing was good. I've always said that Moffat is a great writer, just not a great showrunner. He opened his era with The 11th Hour with a really good story. He closed his era with a maybe not a story, but a really great series of vignettes. And I love the fact that Rusty came back.
It was a bit of a surprise. I wasn't expecting that.
I was hoping.
And Ed, what'd you think?
Yeah, I liked it. It was, you would expect that Moffat would maybe try to pull off this, grand, spectacular, rush to the end, but instead it was a nice, thoughtful, and for what the subject matter was, surprisingly upbeat. It wasn't, given what the plot was about and everything, it could have been a downer, but it actually was this, it actually was a little bit more upbeat. Mark loved the return of Rusty. I was surprised because there were a couple of things that I thought maybe Moffat could shut the door on his way out, but he didn't. So, I didn't hate the fact that Rusty came back, but at the same time, it's like my wish list wasn't exactly covered, but I'm not mad because what we did get was really cool. And yep, I myself found myself grabbing some tissues and making good use of them.
You know what? That was the one thing I did not do. I did not cry in this episode, which is surprising because, as Eddie knows, I cry at everything. And I cried like a baby when Tenet regenerated in 111, and this time I didn't. And even the second time I was just like, and I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't feel as connected to this doctor. I'm not sure.
People behind me were crying in the whole Clara and Bill and Nardole. And they were in tears.
Oh, I've got my own thoughts on that scene.
Well, you know how much I love Clara, Mark. So it's like, I wasn't.
I thought it was
when she showed up. I'm like,
to come back, and I thought it didn't work.
Well, I understand why, but it just, to me, it wasn't an emotional thing because I didn't feel emotionally connected to that character. So I was just like, whatever.
I felt like I really liked the fact that he got his memories back. That's what I liked about it more than I didn't really care about. I mean, Clara, I thought maybe stayed on longer than she should have. But so I don't really I thought that relationship was done, so I didn't really feel like, it's so great that she's back. But I did think like it's great that he remembers her. That was actually the most emotional part for me. I didn't cry either, but it was the most emotional part for me to kind of go, oh, that's great, he's whole again. Whereas before he had been sort of not, and that sort of bothered me in a way. I don't know why, but it did bother me. And
you know what? I actually forgot that he forgot her. So
yeah,
maybe that's why I didn't cry, because it was just like it was just like well, Clara's there. Who cares?
Yeah. I did not hate her appearance as much as I thought. Like, I had heard she was going to be coming back, and I thought, okay, fine, all right, one more. But when I saw how they did it, I'm like, okay, all right, I'm cool with this. Yeah. I'm okay with it. Like I didn't do an eye roll. I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, I think what helped was how the villain, quote unquote, of the piece worked. Just enabled it to, okay, yeah, we'll pull out Clara, but it wasn't,
It was a villain? It was a villain?
Well, I'm using air quotes when I say.
Okay, you have to
villain.
You have to say air quotes,
quote,
for us to know that you're doing air quotes on audio.
Audio, Eddie.
It's not a video. We're not showing your. Oh God, I'm looking at your picture on the screen right now, and what pose is that? What is that? You're doing something Marvel, but I don't know what you're doing.
Not Marvel.
I don't know.
Not Marvel. Not Marvel. That's the picture that I use for Skype. It's actually the pose I'm imitating is Ultra Magnus on the poster to Transformers the movie.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay.
That's
Now I see it. Now I see it.
There you go.
All right.
It's a deep cut. That's a deep cut.
All right.
Yeah. You asked.
I did ask.
Well, as far as the so-called air quotes villain of this thing, the testimony, I was trying from the beginning. I was trying to figure out whose voice that was, doing the voice of the testimony. Because at first I thought it sounded like River, and I was like, no. But I guess it was just generic actor. It wasn't anybody special, right?
It wasn't anybody special. She's a really good actress. I'm gonna blank on her name. Darn it! But she.
Well, yeah.
It's true. She was in a couple seasons of Luther, the show Luther, and she was in Torchwood, I think, as an episode. But she's you would know her if you saw her for sure. And I can't remember her name for the life of me. Yeah, can't remember. I'm sorry, I'm going to blank on it.
Okay, I'm actually I have it up right now.
It as we speak,
yeah.
folks.
There we go.
It's I got it. Nikki Amuka Bird.
Oh yes,
Nikki Amuka Bird. Oh, I'm looking at her right now, and it's like,
Jupiter Ascending. She was in Jupiter Ascending.
Yep, she was in that episode of Torchwood. She was Beth, that little sleeper agent.
That's right.
The one who was like, I'm not evil.
And she played DCI Erin Gray in Luther.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In seasons 2,
2 and 3.
And anyway, she's in Survivors, the remake of Survivors. So she's done.
Yeah, she was in Jupiter Ascending, but for that one, we'll give her a hug and go, there. You poor girl. You had to feed the monkey. Okay, they're there. It's okay. It's okay. You'll survive.
That's what we used to call in the business. I was forced to appear in said project.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of this? It ended up not being a villain in this episode, and this character of the testimony. At first, I was trying to figure out what I figured they were stealing people's life energy, kind of like weeping angels, and then putting them back to let them die. But they have. Mm-hmm. I was trying to figure out what they were doing that was evil, because of course it's Doctor Who. You think there has to be a villain. What did you guys think when it turned out to not be the case?
I love that. I thought that was really great. I for a while there, I was thinking like, oh, that's really original that it turns out to not be an evil plan. I love the Doctor's comment about like how he doesn't know what to do when it's not an evil plan. Yeah. But then I thought about it, and I thought, the first episode that Stephen Moffat wrote for the new series, the first episode of Doctor Who ever, The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances, that threat turns out to not be a threat either. It turns out to be just something we don't understand. So I thought, wow, what a great way to dovetail your time on the show, to kind of go, I started off by presenting a threat that only seems to be a threat but isn't a threat, and I'm going to finish the same way. And I think that's great. I think that was, I love that touch about it. I just wish they'd been around.
I was waiting for the line, "Everybody lives."
I was too.
Well, see, it's funny. No, it's funny that you should bring that up. And it's funny that you should bring up the "Everybody lives" line. Because actually, if you think about it, if you really think about it, with this Christmas special, everybody does live,
except the rest of World War I going on. But wait. Doctor Dances, everybody lived except everyone in World War II. So it kind of worked. It would have worked that line.
I think it also says that everybody. I think part of this episode too is everybody dies, and that's not necessarily sad, right? Yeah. Like, I think he is overjoyed that everyone lives at the end of that one because it's refreshing to him. But at the end of this one, it's everybody dies, and that's not always the worst thing. It's sometimes death is only a change, and memory is important. And I thought that was lovely too.
Yeah.
Mark Gatiss, I thought he was wonderful in this episode, and when I first saw him, just even the promo pictures, I immediately thought, I bet he's related to the Brig. And
everybody thought that, and Moffat said it's not true.
I know some people who didn't think so.
Oh, really? Well, yeah, some people. We actually reported on the show because they gave the captain's name as an anagram. We reported that there was a rumor that it could be the Master. Because Anthony Ainley, every time he was on, there was an anagram of his name, James Stoker, Master's Joke, and stuff like that. But I, in my heart, had a feeling that he was related to the Brig, and so that didn't surprise me.
I got to admit, I actually was not thinking about that.
Yes, I was sitting next to Eddie when it was revealed, and his reaction. Yeah, no, he was not expecting it.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it.
Up Ed. That's cool.
Is it the mustache? Was it the fact that he had a false mustache on?
Everybody who has a mustache is the Master, or the Brig. One or the other.
Did they think? Like, if you have an army guy and you're like, let's put a mustache on him, people are going to think he's a brigadier. I mean, I think that's, if Gatiss hadn't been wearing the mustache, people might have gone, I wonder who that guy is. It's a weird thing.
There you go. I got to give Moffat credit. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about it, and then it hit me at one point. I'm like, wait a minute, have we heard this guy's name at all? And then when he's like, look after my family, I'm like, wait, we haven't heard this guy's name at all. So when he said Lethbridge Stewart, I'm like,
I was just so surprised. You didn't figure it out, because the Brig is one of your favorite characters.
Yeah.
And I was just like thinking, really? You didn't? You didn't even see it coming?
I was more focused on David Bradley as the first.
Yeah, we hadn't mentioned him yet.
Yes, that was where I was going to go to next.
I segued! Woohoo!
Good segue, thank you.
I can't ride those things. Those are kind of hard to actually maneuver.
I don't think I've even tried.
All right.
I don't think it's a good character attribute if you can really ride a Segway well. I think it's like proof that you are an okay dude if you're like, I have no idea how to ride a Segway.
I have no idea how to ride a Segway.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you go. You're an okay dude. You're good.
Well, I guess you're not. Well, I guess, Jeremy, you're not going to be in a Paul Blart sequel anytime soon.
No. I'm not. No, you kidding me? I'm not good enough to be a mall cop. That movie makes that job look hard. So I don't want
doesn't it?
It does. That's a tough job.
David Bradley thought he was wonderful as the first Doctor. A lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but there was some backlash I saw on the internet where people were upset with how he, of course, I know, Mark, the internet is the internet. There's always going to be backlash, but no matter what it is, but they were upset with the way he was portrayed, especially the sexist, the sexist demeanor, his comments and stuff. And I personally found him funny, but of course I haven't watched a lot of the first Doctor.
I want to explain something.
Go ahead.
That was the time of the era people talk like that. Now, maybe the Doctor didn't specifically be very sexist or very, like that during the show, but he definitely had tendencies to make, could you make tea or something? But I think they were doing a meta. They were doing a commentary on 60s television and 60s behavior. And I thought for that reason it was funny and it worked. I would not backlash against that. I think we were showing how the 60s were more advanced now. And I like that.
I kind of looked at it like he's not... I don't know. Fans are going to get upset at me with this, but I'm like, he's not really the first Doctor any more than Richard Herndl is the first Doctor, right?
Oh my God,
no, wait. But I mean,
no, you're right.
Yeah, what I mean to say is, it's like he's like, you can't, it's not the same actor. It's 50 years later. Storytelling's totally different, and you can't expect to get this thing. So to me, it's like, it's a joke. It's just, they're joking around. It's fine. It's not an insult to the first Doctor. Exactly. It's not an insult to the first Doctor. He's, let's be honest, I think rarely going to come back. If he ever appears again, I'd be surprised.
Well, hold on. Right after the episode was on, Big Finish dropped the First Doctor Adventures download.
Right, and that was going to be my next point, which is that if you really want to hear the First Doctor probably done extremely accurately to what, or at least more accurately to what the Doctor was in the first 3 years of the show, then that's the place to go get it, because that's where they're going to write it with an eye towards that kind of familiarity and nostalgia. It has to fit into what the story is, and what you wanted was to contrast where the 12th Doctor is now versus where he was then, and their similarities and their differences. And so, he's exaggerated, but it was just fun. They weren't trying to be insulting. I think they were just trying to say, look how far we've come as a show, and look how far the character has come in his journey as humans.
And he wasn't malicious.
No,
I mean, it wasn't done with his comment to Bill, about any more language like that, and you're in for a jolly good smacked bottom.
Yeah,
it was not meant as it was not meant to be a malicious thing. It was it was more about that was just the time.
There's something else I want to say now that you brought up the smack bottom line. The smack bottom line and...
Careful. Careful.
No. And Bill using the word arse. This was on at 5:30 in the afternoon in England. And it's the first time I think that I've heard language like that in a non-watershed or even a non-late. Doctor Who has been on at 7:30 at night on Saturday evenings for the last 3 years. They put it on at 5:30 and they get a little more risque.
That's true.
What was that?
That's true.
Oh, I'm sure the kids watching were like, Doctor Who said arse. Now I can say it.
Bill said arse.
Well, no, the show is the word.
There was there was one joke they made that I thought that didn't quite feel right, and that was, and I can't remember the joke, but it was the joke he made to the captain, and it was it just, the first Doctor was paternalistic and could very well say some of the things that he said out of just being kind of clueless, but that was meant to be a joke, like a boys' room, locker room type joke. Are you talking about
the one where Bill's comeback was that she did too?
Well, when he said that he's had experience with the fairer sex,
right?
No, it was something about like,
or was it the one that women are made of glass?
It was the women are made of glass thing. That felt like that's a joke that you say to kind of like, he was saying it to make her feel bad about being a woman, and that was the only joke where I thought, well, hang on, he was like jolly good smack bottom is because he's an old crotchety everybody's grandfather, right? He's a paternalistic kind of guy. And even when he says, do a bit of dusting around, I mean, that's just because he's Victorian. But to be, that was a bit, I mean, if it hadn't been Bill, think about it if it had been, another modern companion, right? And Bill wasn't able to come back with some sharp retort. That would have been sort of a little bit mean-spirited. And it just was a joke at her expense. That was the only one that I went, that one didn't land. But I think that was just a mistake. It wasn't them trying to be deliberately offensive, but
as a woman watching it, like the smack bottom thing didn't bother me, but I haven't watched a lot of the first Doctor, so I don't know exactly how he is, but what you're saying was what I thought too. It didn't seem quite right to me. That I don't recall people ever talking about how sexist he was or anything.
He wasn't sexist. It was a 60s characterization.
Okay. That's all I was trying to take it to. And I thought, I laughed. I thought it was funny, but at the same time, I know a lot of people got offended. And it's just, to me, it's just like, it's just television, take it for what it is. Don't make everything a crusade. It doesn't always have to be a crusade. But
and at least they were saying, I think the message was pretty clear that they were saying that that's a pretty, horrible way to behave. And, that aren't we glad that the Doctor has grown beyond that? In the same way that the Doctor, like he does in Unearthly Child, doesn't pick up a rock and try to brain cavemen anymore. I mean, it's a good thing that he's not, selfish and sort of slightly sinister like the first Doctor was initially. So he's grown, right? He has grown, and it's
and maybe
fine.
It was even a little bit of Moffat going, look how much I've grown, because everyone accused Moffat of being so, not being very good with the female characters. Maybe it was kind of his way of saying, oh, look, I'm better. I'm better than I was. Yeah.
And speaking of better, this show will only get better in the second half. This segment of Mark Who 42 has been sponsored by Cosplay Convention Center. You can find more information by clicking the link on markwho42.net. They are a database for cosplayers, for anyone who works in the convention limelight. If you're looking for us, we're there. They have a database that narrows down where we're going to be. If you're looking for Doctor Who conventions in your area, this is a place to look. If you're looking for certain people going to conventions, you can find them there too. This database is amazing, and it's wonderful to use if you need to find out about your favorite genre, your favorite podcasts, your favorite professional cosplayers. Check out the Cosplay Guide. Again, you can find their link on markwho42.net. We'll be right back with more of Mark Who 42.
Nice segue.
Thanks. Don't go away. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Mark Who 42 after this.
Jamie Engel is an award-winning author of science fiction and horror novels and stories. The Toilet Papers, a book that she wrote, is a collection of short stories ranging from 50 words to more than 5,000 to match your bathroom needs. But here are some other facts that you may not know about her. She cosplays Marty McFly Jr., Wonder Woman, Garth from Wayne's World, and Trinity from The Matrix. She speaks to kids about bullying and to authors about writing and marketing their books. She once owned a body shop, managed a hip-hop band, and danced at the Aloha Bowl halftime show. Wow, that's really cool. But without coffee, the world would end. So definitely you should read some of Jamie Engel's work, and you can if you go to her website, therighteangle.com. THEWRITEENGLE.com. And don't forget, follow her on Instagram at The Right Angle. Hey, Iggy.
Yes?
I know that you started watching Doctor Who as a newbie, with the new show, but have you gotten a chance to watch all 7 classic Doctors in action?
I have not.
Well, you can find the most complete collection of Doctor Who ever broadcast in the U.S. on retro TV.
Shut the front door. Are you serious?
I'm serious, and you don't even need cable for this. This is over-the-air television. You have an HD antenna. You can watch around the country retro TV. Many of the stories have been remastered and enhanced from their original film and videotape elements, so they come out beautifully perfect in HD.
Mind blown.
It's free. You just have to go to your TV and find retro TV, and you can watch all the great Doctor Who. They show 2 episodes Monday through Friday, and they show more than that.
I think I shall get my pajamas and my Ben & Jerry's then.
And recently they've added new stories. Not new stories as in like they've made new stories, but new stories that they haven't had in rotation, such as several Patrick Troughton tales that weren't on before. They're adding them to them. So there's more to watch because, those new stories became available. Web of Fear and Enemy of the World. So they've added things like that.
Oh my, I'm excited.
So don't forget to go and look for Retro TV and watch Doctor Who. You can go to RetroTV.com and look for their schedule for exactly when Doctor Who is on in your area.
I'm logging in as we speak.
Hello, listeners of Mark Who 42. This is Yi-Ji Cho, and here's wishing you a Happy New Year.
Mark Who 42 is proud to have Famous Faces and Funnies as a sponsor of our show. They have literally tons and tons of comic books, novelties, and everything. They're located off of 3020 New Haven Avenue in West Melbourne. If you want to give them a call, let them Mark Who 42 sent you. You can call them at 321-258-3575. But they are a huge store. I mean, you've seen comic stores, but this one is kind of like the Costco of comic stores. They have tons of merchandise. It's incredible. You can go from one store, then there's another section and another section. They have tons and tons of stuff there for you to buy. If you have any geekdom out there, Famous Faces and Funnies has got it. Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars, everything. Rick, the guy who runs it, real great guy. You definitely want to check out Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida. I did my Christmas shopping, and I got my girlfriend the Peter Capaldi crystal carving at DoctorWhoCrystals.com. And you should go there, too. They've got official BBC licensed crystal carvings of all the Doctors inside of a crystal carving of a TARDIS. They are actual crystal, and they are beautiful. They've got every Doctor to choose from, and they're only $100. They're not that expensive. So do what I did and get your spouse happy by buying them a crystal carving from DoctorWhoCrystals.com. I might buy the War Doctor one for myself.
Okay, you're listening to Mark Who 42. My name's Louise Jameson, and I played Leela way back when God was a boy.
Welcome back to more of Mark Who 42 here on Krypton Radio. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten. We've got the original Mark Who 42 team here, Trish Helm-Freyre and Eduardo M. Freyre, and our special guest, Jeremy Radick. Hello, guys. Welcome back from the commercial break.
Ooh, I'm refreshed.
I'm glad you're refreshed. You had plenty of time to do a little dabble, do you?
That's right.
Okay.
Well, hey, and we had a commercial break, and it didn't have downer messages about protect the animals.
Oh my
set
God!
To Sam Lachlan.
Worse. Why don't they just protect the animals instead of showing pictures of animals that need to be protected? I'm sorry.
Can you
set up a picture of an animal the animal that's suffering, you set up a picture, you film that to get other people to pay money. No, just help the pet you're showing a picture of. Don't film it. All right, we're going completely off target here. We're reviewing the Christmas episode of Doctor Who, Twice Upon a Time. Trish, if you will.
Okay. One of the scenes that really was that I thought was funny was when they were escaping from the testimony ship and where they just all jumped on the TARDIS, because I was surprised to see David Bradley just go along with it. It was just like I was thinking that man's gonna fall and break a hip. You know?
I thought that when they jumped off the top of the TARDIS, he's like, "All right, everybody jump," and I'm like, "He is 1,000,000 years old. What are you doing?"
But think about it. David Bradley is actually younger. The character of the first Doctor is younger than Peter Capaldi's Doctor. So,
I suppose
mentally.
And also, Time Lords could live thousands of years without regenerating, so he wasn't old yet. He was only 500, 600 years old. He was barely middle-aged for a non-regenerating Time Lord.
Well, not to mention the fact that, there's also the joys of stunt doubles.
Yeah. But
that's definitely true.
What I liked about that scene was the fact that Capaldi is doing his usual, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And Bradley's going, why are you telling him everything we're going to do to escape? Why are you announcing this? Just do it. I thought that was hysterical.
I liked every moment where Bradley and Capaldi interacted. That was every single moment between the both of them was great. You know.
What about when he put the sonic sunglasses on him?
That was great.
Sunglasses.
I loved when he said, "Never take those off." I thought that was great because I was like, there is no human. I don't think there is a character created in the last 50 years that looks less comfortable in sunglasses than the first Doctor. Right?
When he tossed him, I thought he was going to step on him.
That's what I was hoping.
I was expecting the foot.
I was hoping.
Imagine if you made the first Doctor wear shorts.
I don't know.
That would have been great.
You have to explain to the British folk because they have different words. Like pants means one thing and shorts means another. We're talking about outerwear, folks. Okay.
Yeah, short pants. Yeah, not pants.
Yeah, not
pants. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think we need the first. I love the Doctor and all his incarnations. We don't need the Doctor in shorts. No.
Ever.
Nope. Although, I don't know about ever because I think those who are curious to see how the 13th Doctor goes, I think they probably wouldn't mind Jodie Whittaker in shorts. But
that's true. And you know what? Matt Smith did wear shorts. He wore shorts when he played football.
Yeah.
Yep.
And in the Children in Need short that they filmed, Matt Smith was naked. But that's another story.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, that was nerding out. All right.
Yeah, we're nerding out. Hey, can I say something? The whole reason that they put the 12th and the first Doctor together at the regeneration point, because they both didn't want to move on. They wanted to keep their bodies and not... And then when testimony showed the first Doctor all the things of his future and how he was the Doctor of War, that kind of messed things up for Capaldi, didn't it? Because he needs the first Doctor to regenerate to get to him, and every time he brings up, something that has to do with his future and how it's changed, he kind of doesn't want to tell him, and then testimony spills the beans for him. What do you guys think of that?
I love any time that they show clips of anything else in Doctor Who. I always love that. I think he knew his job was hard regardless. I just think that, that was another stumbling block. But, the other thing to remember is the Doctor always thinks he can talk people into anything. So I think that he even thinks that of himself, or maybe even especially of himself. So he might have just thought to himself, oh, great, that's not going to help. But how immediately I think, Capaldi or any Doctor would be thinking, how am I going to what am I going to say to make that okay in his mind? So I don't know. I just thought it was a moment that it was interesting to see the first Doctor, who is the only Doctor that has no huge backlog of history behind him to kind of deal with, to all of a sudden it was a nice moment to see him kind of recognize, maybe to his horror, but recognize that, wow, there's so much that I'm going to do. And it was nice to see the weight of his story kind of hit that character who never had that before, right? So that was kind of nice.
Because he's the bloke who's going to let good trump evil, as Bill said.
It was neat to see all the Doctors get, their little blip in this, so it was nice. It was nice to see that. And of course it was fun to see the first Doctor being like, oh my God, what is all this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was anybody surprised when Nardole showed up?
Yes. Pleasantly surprised.
Well, you bring back Clara, you had to bring back Nardole. I mean,
oh, yeah,
you were playing all the King's Men, and you had to bring all the companions back. So once Clara showed up, all right, Nardole's coming back.
Well, yeah, I saw on Twitter that Matt Lucas, talking about it, he was like, yeah, I had been told I wasn't going to be in the special, and then they called me, and I was like, wait, what? So, he wasn't expecting to come back, so, Moffat pulled a surprise, and it's like, oh, no, you're not going to, actually, I'm just kidding. Just kidding, you're back, Now, but it was, I actually felt more seeing Nardole back than when Clara did her little cameo. I was like, yay, he's back. Yay, they brought Nardole back, that's great.
Now, it's interesting, at the viewing party, people were asking me after the show, when did we see Nardole die? And we didn't, of course. We saw Nardole going on to help protect the Mondasians from the Cybermen, taking him to a new level. And I was trying to explain to them that just because the testimony had his memories doesn't mean he died yet, because it's from the far future. So Bill probably had tons of adventures with oil slick girl. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The pilot?
But probably had tons of adventures with her before she left and died, and that's why she doesn't remember how she got there, but she does remember going with her.
Yeah, and that's why she also can tell the Doctor. Like, I think a lot of people were initially confused and thought it was a memory of Bill when she died before the pilot resurrected her, and then we're like, well, how does she remember? But it's after. It's it could be a million.
Far in the future.
I think the Doctor does say that they're from very, very far. That testimony is from far. So, I mean, to my mind, they're pulling it ever. Did anyone else think when the first Doctor was out and they were saying, you get to speak to her again, and she was coming out, did anyone else for a moment think we were going to see Carol Ann Ford pop up as Susan?
Oh, that would have been so...
I know.
I was hoping they would somehow pull Carol Ann Ford out, and when she didn't show up, I was like, oh man, I wanted to see Susan.
Yeah.
I wanted Susan.
That would have made me cry. That would have
that would have been the one that would have done it.
That would have tipped me over. Yeah.
That would have done it. Yeah, I liked Bill. Nardole was fine.
It would have been kind of cool if Misty had showed up.
Oh.
That would have been fun to see her interact with David Bradley.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
That's true, but that would have told everybody that the Master finally died.
True.
Right? Like, I think, I guess they kind of said she died, but she's like the Joker, right? She'll turn up again, or as him, or her, or whoever it's going to be next.
Yeah.
All right, and what about the final scene? What did you think of Capaldi's final performance, his big old speech that he gave?
Actually, you know what? I gotta answer that with a question for the group, because the last word Stephen Moffat wrote in his capacity as showrunner was Capaldi's last lines of, "Doctor, I let you go." So with that in mind, I asked this last night when we were broadcasting Keeping It Reels. I'm going to ask it here now. Who was speaking through the 12th Doctor? Was it Capaldi, Moffat? You know, who was it? Who was it that was actually saying, "Doctor, I let you go"?
Moffat and Capaldi. I can't answer.
It was everybody.
It was both Moffat and Capaldi.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of it, right? Like it's a line that I think it's written by Moffat, and I think when Capaldi read it, he thought to himself, "Oh, that's brilliant." You know, I mean, and I think Moffat's too good and too deliberate a writer. I mean, you know, like the planet where Rusty is on is Villengard, which he mentioned in The Doctor Dances. That was the place where bananas grow now. I mean, like he's too deliberate a guy to just put in "Doctor, I let you go" and not kind of rub his hands together and go, "That's great for Peter and it's great for me." It's great for Murray Gold, who I think is leaving as well. Yeah. It's great for Rachel Talalay, who is probably one of the best, if not the best directors the new series has ever had, and she's leaving. It's great for everybody moving on. I think that's a line where he just goes, "Yep, that's a perfect line." But when I watched it, I didn't think about Moffat or Gold or Talalay. I thought about Capaldi and him saying, "I let you go." I thought that was the most moving part for me.
But, you know, it's funny you should mention, once again mention Rusty. I saw Doctor Who TV, you know, always does this things where they do little teasers for the episode where they'll do like one line or they'll just say something. And they said for this one, though, they said, they were saying of all the things that Moffat checks back on, this is what it was. And when I saw Rusty, I'm like, okay, all right. So, because, I mean, I got to admit, I have like a little, there was like a little wish list that I had of stuff that I was hoping Moffat would kind of take care of before he headed out. And yeah, having Rusty the Dalek reappear was not like really high on the list. I was actually hoping that before he regenerated, we would get the all 13, the all 13 scene. But from Capaldi's perspective, like that, now we're kind of stuck because I mean, are we ever gonna? Chances are we'll never get that.
We don't need that scene.
I don't need that.
We don't need that scene. And I know some people were saying this is the perfect time for the 12th Doctor to tell the first Doctor so that they could start it from the beginning and go. It wasn't needed because if you think about it, okay, so yeah, all the Doctors were working on it. Well, then we didn't get to see any of the other Doctors working on it or finding out about it. Why should a future one, just because they had the opportunity to do it, why is it necessary to do?
Well, it's not necessary, but it would have been cool, and it would have been nice to have like an explanation of how he got there and why. Because it's one thing for a Doctor to go backwards and get his previous selves working on something. It's quite another when the Doctor that's right, that's coming up behind you jumps in too. It would have been interesting to kind of explore why, like the hows and whys of it. Like how is it that he got involved?
I guess I kind of look at it from a more meta perspective, which is that I think that scene in Day of the Doctor is perfect. It's like one of my favorite moments in Doctor Who of all time. That one makes me like, I'll watch that scene on its own and just kind of like get all weepy, I just think it's perfect. And it's kind of magical. And I kind of like, I don't ever want to go back. I don't want anything to ever go back to that scene and try and make it more plausible or more explained or more concrete. I just want it to exist as it is because it's just a wonderful moment where it says everybody comes. It's just a wonderful moment. And I think I didn't really want to futz with it because I think if you start futzing with it, that's when it starts to become, that's when you have to start thinking, well, when did Colin Baker have time to do all this? Was he just doing it? Then you start thinking about it. And you know what? It's just it's just like magic. It's like, the audience claps and Tinkerbell comes back to life. And I don't know why it works, but that's why it just does, right? That's just the way I felt about that moment.
I agree.
For me, anyways.
Okay.
But I totally understand the impulse because there's other stuff in Doctor Who where I'm like, can we please explain, how that happened? There's tons of and everybody has their own moment that makes them I want more of that. I want that explained better.
Jeremy,
everybody wants that. So
I'll explain later. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you pulled that out.
But how great was Capaldi in that last scene, though, right? I mean,
yeah.
And speaking of that last scene, we'll get back to Capaldi's performance because I think we should talk about Capaldi's performance. But I want to ask you about that last scene. So we know that Moffat wrote up until that last line, and then Chibnall wrote the final scene. Now, the final scene was almost the exact same scene that Davis left Moffat with. The regeneration, the TARDIS blowing up, and then in the pickup in the 11th hour, Matt Smith is holding on to the TARDIS out the door. So Chibnall must have been like, how can I one-up Moffat on this? We're going to one-up Moffat. I know, let's have her not be able to catch the door and fall. What did you guys think on that? Because I thought it was playing out the exact same way. They had to one-up it.
My thought was, why are they regenerating in the TARDIS all the time? Every time they do, they destroy it.
Well, the first
they should learn by now to
TARDIS too. So
I know. I understand that, but it's like.
But they've regenerated in the TARDIS every time in the new series, and I'm not sure why.
I felt the same way. It was just like, didn't we just do this with 11 and it was crashing, and then 10 almost crashed with it? It just seems to be a running thing, and I was hoping for something different.
Yeah, I think 9 regenerating into 10 was like the only time that he actually managed to get it right. Even then, there was a bit of a I think after Parting of Ways, there was like a mini-sode or something for I think Children in Need with the 10th Doctor kind of going a little crazy and just messing with dials but at the beginning of Christmas Invasion, it's like, nope, he got it right, and it's like, wow, okay. Okay, gotta wipe the sweat from the brow.
That brings up a question I wanted to ask the panel, which is, do you guys think that a Christmas episode is a good episode to do a regeneration story? And let me just explain why I'm coming at it this way. Because it's always been a Christmas episode that they've regenerated in, except at the end of the first series of the new series. And I think that's the best regeneration, the most coherent regeneration story of the new series, because it comes at the climax of the series. It's a big adventure. It comes right at the end, and there's all the weight of that season behind it, as opposed to what we do now, which is there's a final story, and then you wait like 6 months or whatever. You get to this one-off story that isn't necessarily ever really connected to anything else that's going on for the most part. And then he regenerates, and the regeneration is the whole. It's not the climax to a story where he has to sacrifice himself. It's the point of the story.
Jeremy,
what do you guys think works better?
I agree with you. I think that it should be in the main series instead of the Christmas episode. But let me just point out, this Christmas episode originally wasn't meant to exist. The Doctor was supposed to regenerate at the end of Series 10, except that Chibnall wasn't going to be able to do a Christmas episode. And Moffat was talked into doing the last episode, the Christmas episode. So that's why they pushed the regeneration to this. It was supposed to end at the end of The Doctor Falls.
Right.
And he should have regenerated there. And the only reason he didn't was because of behind-the-scenes things.
Sure.
I agree. It should be during the main season, a cause from what's going on in the main seasons. But this one was kind of like, well, if we're going to have a Christmas episode, because they were going to cancel the Christmas episode.
Right.
Moffat didn't do it. And then we'd only have, 10 episodes next year, and that's it. So, they did it out of necessity, but I do agree with you.
And Trish, what do you guys think?
Trish, you want to go first?
Yeah, I agree. I would have loved to have, have the regeneration at the end of the series, and then looking forward to just seeing 13's first episode be the Christmas episode.
Right.
I think that would have been much better in my opinion, because it would have been neat to see her do her first episode, and then I would be even more excited to see the next season. I mean, I already am, but it would just, you get that first taste and be like, "Ooh, I can't wait to see more."
Yeah.
Yeah. I see your point. It's a very good point, and I agree. I think, though, playing a little bit of devil's advocate, I can kind of see that the reason why they may do it like in the Christmas special is the Christmas specials have now become kind of the last hurrah of the year as far as Doctor Who is concerned. The way they've been doing the show, the last thing we get is the Christmas special. That becomes sort of the season finale. So I think they're like, okay, well, season finale, that's where you have to put like the big, the big thing, the big moment, the big cliffhanger. So, let's do regenerations there. Although it does make sense to tie it in more with the season.
Right.
So I agree with you. I can also see probably what they're trying to do by having the Christmas special be where the Doctors regenerate.
Cool.
How does Jodie live? First episode, first 2 minutes of the episode, what happens? Season 11.
Ooh.
Superman catches her.
Well, it wouldn't be Superman. It would be
the Ghost.
The Ghost, yeah.
Oh man, you can't ever bring that guy back.
You think the Ghost will pick him up? Ed, what about you? How's he going to survive?
Well, probably what I'm thinking is that either some sort of guest character will somehow rescue her. Either that, or what'll happen is the TARDIS will phase in again, and she'll get back at the controls and at least try to land it so that she can make it to safety. Something will come in, and just last minute rescue her.
Jeremy, what about you?
All right, you guys want to hear my crazy theory that will likely be incredibly wrong?
Okay.
All right.
Go for it.
It's the third Doctor era. I think the TARDIS, we're going to have the first part of the season, the TARDIS is lost, and she's going to hit the ground, but she's still regenerating, so it manages to heal her from whatever injury she has. And the reason why she's got I think it's three companions, and one of them is because they find her and become her sort of support network, and she spends maybe the first few episodes or maybe the first season looking for the TARDIS and fighting alien invasions. That is almost certainly wrong, but here's I think it's a good idea.
Opening shot, Bradley Walsh's house. He's having one of his world-class celebrity pool parties, and Jodie falls and splashes into the pool. Bradley Walsh helps her out, and then they go off on adventures. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could be it.
Hey,
Could be it.
Maybe.
No, it's not going to happen that way. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Bradley Walsh's swimming pool is involved.
Okay. So are you guys going to miss Peter Capaldi? I mean, I know we're all excited for Jodie Whittaker.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I honestly, I had hoped that he would have lasted a lot longer.
He wanted... I mean, he originally said he was going to stay, but I understand his point. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also, I would have loved, if he would have stayed into at least one season into the Chibnall era, so we could see what happens when somebody else has the reins of Peter Capaldi.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss him. I will miss him. I feel like we barely got started, even though it has been a few seasons, and it would have been neat to see what Chibnall could have done with him, but. I'm also really excited for Jodie Whittaker.
Yeah,
Jodie should be fun.
Oh yeah, and I gotta love her first line out of the gate. You know, she just looked at her reflection and just said, brilliant.
Yeah.
I was actually, I gotta admit, I was hoping for something different. My prediction for her first words were she was going to mimic the Sixth Doctor. She was going to go change, and then the second part of it, she's going to change, and it's about time. But you know what? Now that I think about it,
the way she said it and the accent, because she used her real Yorkshire accent.
Yorkshire?
Yorkshire. Excuse me.
Yorkshire.
I'm thinking Yorkshire pudding. Yorkshire.
It is. It's Yorkshire.
It's Yorkshire. It is Yorkshire.
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
Yorkshire. If I'm afraid that if she keeps the accent as dead on as she did it when she said brilliant, that all the Americans really are going to have to use the closed captioning to understand her talking. And I'm a little worried about that, because I heard brilliant, but a lot of people told me when we were at the party, they heard bruh. And I played it back, and yeah, you kind of hear a bruh. And
I'll be honest.
Brilliant.
I'll be honest. I didn't hear brilliant.
I heard brilliant.
I didn't,
but it was hard to do. And I'm good at hearing British accents, so I got it. But to a normal American, that was very hard to decipher.
Yeah, I will say that in her defense, in defense of the accent and the ability to properly hear the accent, at the time there was kind of a lot of noise in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
So I think we need to. I think we kind of need to see a moment or two where she's able to speak without a ton of stuff going on. To see if the accent works. I mean, it could just be that there was a lot of noise with the music playing. So,
and let me bring up my constant bugbear about new Doctor Who since 2005 is they consistently mix the music so high and loud in the mix. It's brutal at times. Like, that's the one thing. It's like Murray Gold's leaving. I'm like, oh, that's sad. Maybe we'll get a guy that won't just blow all the dialogue into the background with music, though. Or I don't know if it's the mixing or the how they like to foreshadow the music. But there have been times where I'm like, I can't listen to it. Like, if I turn it up, I'm just getting loud music and still not hearing I sound like an old man. I sound like I'm about 80. But literally, I do think there are times when the mix has been cuckoo on that show. So I can understand sometimes when there's a lot going on, people going, oh, I can't quite understand, what people are saying.
I agree with you. I've noticed the same thing. At first I thought maybe it was just BBC America that they had their sound levels off, because there's been times where it's the same problem. Okay.
Yeah. On the discs, on the Blu-rays, it's brutal.
Oh, yeah,
I think it's better if you have a sound bar or a good sound system to fix the mix. But I mean, on just a regular, it's just sometimes it's particularly in the first couple seasons. There's times when the mix is all over the place.
That explains a lot. When we have our weekend TARDIS Reno meetings, we do it at a library here, and they have a surround system on their televisions, but there are times where the music is just ridiculously loud, and you can barely hear the dialogue.
Yeah. All right. Well, that got technical fast. Okay.
Got technical. Well, we get technical here at Mark Who 42. We give them the full Monty. Keep your clothes on, please. But yeah.
Okay.
So when does the next season come out? Have they just said
the autumn?
They just said autumn.
It'll probably be the same bank holiday weekend that it's always in the end of August, probably.
And is it 10 or 13 this coming up?
No,
I think it's 10, right?
No, it's season 11.
No.
No, I mean, is it 10 episodes?
10 episodes.
10 episodes. Each episode, except for the first episode being an hour long.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you guys think about that? That we're losing more episodes. We're kind of going back to Sylvester McCoy. 14 episodes, that's all you get. 25 minutes, and that's it.
I mean, they got to make it work, right? It's not a cheap show to make, for sure. I mean, it makes them boatloads of money, but that also, I think, pays for a lot of their programming on the network. It's tough to say. I think as long as it works for what Chibnall's got. I mean, that's another thing, too. Yeah. If you're losing doctors like Capaldi because he's just like, I can't do... It's a year-round job. I mean, you're going to keep losing actors for that reason. So part of me is like, I always want more Doctor Who. Like, I'll always take more. But I recognize that it may not be wise. It may stretch the writers too much. It may stretch the budget too much. And it may burn out the creatives too fast. So, maybe. I don't know. I'm mixed. I'm of mixed feelings about it. So I see both sides.
Yeah, and I think also we got a new showrunner, so they may want to give him just 10 and say, okay, what can you do with this?
Right.
And see if it
Well, the new showrunner, Chris Chibnall, from what I heard, and I don't know if this is definite fact or rumor, but I'm going with it because I've heard it from multiple sources, that Doctor Who with Chris Chibnall is going to run as a story, not as an anthology. And if you do that, kind of like Broadchurch, where there were, 8 or 10 episodes in season 1, the less episodes, the longer the time, the more you can get the story in there without too much extra padding. So that may be why they're going down the 10s.
I'd heard.
Continuous story.
Yep, I had heard that it was going to be one big story.
Yeah.
So, of course, the first thing that comes to my mind is old stories like the War Games. Mm-hmm. Not this thing where it's going to be like, a bunch of self-contained episodes except for, is this a clue to the big season-long mystery? It's actually going to be one big story. So, in that particular case, it might work to...
But that's a big change to Doctor Who, because Doctor Who has always been an anthology with maybe an arc. But they've been stories that could be anywhere, any place, any time. And now, if we do this story, we're kind of setting ourselves down to one thing that if you don't like or if you miss an episode, forget it.
It'll be interesting, yeah.
It'll be a throwback to the classic era because you had not so much episodes as you had adventures, a stack. So if there's any downside, it may be that, perhaps out of the gate, it could have been like 1 or 2 stories instead of a big one. But, we'll see if it's able to work.
Well, the first 5 stories are going to be the TARDIS is missing and he's going to be trapped on Earth. And the last 5 stories will be a story that takes place in space. There you go. So Jeremy had it on 1.
Oh man! If I get it right on here, I'm going to retire and just live off of that prediction forever.
If you get it right, you are a cast member of Mark Who 42. I
don't.
Right there.
That's it won't be that, but Matt, it's I don't know, it's crazy. I'm not that lucky.
Did anyone hear if Gemma Redgrave was rehired for this season? They're going to do a unit season.
You know what?
Bradley Walsh,
I did not.
New Brigadier. No.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, I haven't.
Sacrilege.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard. I haven't heard anything about Gemma Redgrave coming back. Although, based off the fact that they keep going clean slate,
yeah,
we will probably not. If we will probably not see her. We probably won't see Unit. I'm guessing.
Well, no, you might see Unit. Unit's been around forever. Every clean slate has had Unit in it at some point.
Yeah, I have a feeling that they want to really make this new season with Jodie Whittaker. I mean, it's the perfect time to say, let's make it as easy for everybody to jump on board who may have been wondering, should I watch Doctor Who or not? Right? So
yeah.
I think that if they're going to do that, then it's going to be, maybe we'll have Daleks, maybe. But otherwise it'll be a new kind of adventure where you don't need to know 50 years of history and you don't need to know very much more than the regular thing. And that's not always a bad thing because that can help refresh the show. So I don't know, it'll be interesting. They can go anywhere from here, and that's kind of always exciting.
Well said.
Yes. I love it when it's like that. Kind of like the new Star Wars.
That's true.
Which I still haven't seen yet, so don't spoil it.
Oh man, because that scene with Lando was awesome.
So Yoda,
who knew that Greedo was behind everything?
For everyone. I said Yoda. I'm sorry. I haven't seen it, and I know Yoda. I'm sorry.
I was
Yoda?
I was really surprised when Mickey Mouse showed up. That was
yeah. And
who knew he was Snoke all along? Yeah.
Yeah.
The ghost of Jabba the Hutt, I heard, comes back. But
yeah, and he's played by Iron Man. It's Iron Man inside the whole thing. They're just all corporate synergy now, my friend. It's all the same universe.
And I heard that Howard the Duck makes an appearance. Like he did in the Guardians of the Galaxy. He makes an appearance in Star Wars, too.
He's been inside R2-D2 all along.
Yeah. No, he was in the cantina. It was Rocket Raccoon that's in R2.
Bebop? What's the robot?
BB-8?
Bebop? I don't know what it's called. Okay, what's the name of the robot?
BB-8.
BB-8?
Yes.
BB-8 appears in Avengers 4. I didn't know if you knew that. But, okay.
Wow.
I spoiled that
Sounds
one.
great.
Okay.
That sounds great.
It's Marvel Star Wars. One universe, one story.
Well, hey, remember that Disney now owns the box slate.
I just realized. When do we get to see Princess Marge and Prince Homer at Disney World? Aren't they the new Prince and Princess of Disney? Because of the box sale? I'm just saying.
Deadpool's the new Disney princess.
Oh, Deadpool's the princess? I thought Deadpool was the executioner of Mickey and takes over.
Can't wait for that.
Can't wait. Oh, the boy. Back to the Christmas episode. Do we have any final words we want to talk about the Christmas episode that we loved? Well, scale 1 to 10, what do you give it? Actually, no, take that back. Scale to 1 to 13 now that you're at 13. 1 to 13.
All right, Trish, you go first.
I would give it 12. Yeah, I'll give it 12.
I would give it a 12, too. What about you guys?
12.
Okay, I'm just to be contrary, I'll give it an 11.
Okay.
Just because I wish that the story was more compelling. Yes. That it just, that's all. That's what I lost it on me. It just felt like very low stakes. Yeah, but that was the only thing. For everything else, it's perfect. So.
All right, well, that went very well. I have to do our lovely little section of the show that we call Convention Spotlights. It's the conventions that Mark Who 42 will be doing in the next few months. And first of all, before I get to conventions, let's go and tell everybody that Weekend TARDIS, the Doctor Who viewing fan club that meets in South Florida, will be holding its next meeting on January 21st at Ye Olde Falcon Pub in Davie, Florida. We start at 12 p.m. noon, and we go on till around 3. We show one classic story and one new series story. When's the next Weekend TARDIS Reno, Trish?
The next Weekend TARDIS Reno is coming up on Friday, January 19th. It's at the South Valleys Library in Reno, Nevada. Starts at 5:30.
All right. Then, convention-wise, we've got Time Lord Fest Tampa Bay on January 28th at the Event Factory, where it's been held for the last several years. Tickets are on sale now. You can go to Facebook and type in Time Lord Fest Tampa Bay, or Google it. Doesn't matter which one you do. Right now they're selling pre-sale tickets. Plus, if you went to that lovely Time Lord Ball on New Year's Eve that I was at, you have a free admission to Time Lord Fest. It's like a 2-day convention, except separated by 4 weeks. The guests that will be there so far are Lewis Robinson, who was a BBC producer, worked on The Demons. The Ken Spivey Band will be playing there. And this guy named Mark Baumgarten, a lifelong Doctor Who fan expert on all things Time Lord and host of the award-winning podcast, what does that say there on the page? Mark Who 42. And so much more. It'll be there. It's at the Event Factory, January 28th. That's in Tampa, Florida. And then in February, and I'm doing this as fast as I can, folks, we've got Comic-Con Revolution West Palm Beach. It's their first convention in Florida. They had one in California. They're doing one here in Florida. On February 24th, 2018, it's going to be at the West Palm Beach Convention Center. It's going to be great. There's some great guests going to be there. Chris Claremont is going to be there. If you remember the X-Men way back in the 80s when they brought it back, it was all due to Chris Claremont. We've got Ming Chen from AMC's Comic Book Men. I did a panel on podcasting with him years back in Florida SuperCon. He's going to be there. Adam Troy Castro, a local Florida writer, science fiction writer, and he's also written the Spider-Man Sinister Six trilogy for Marvel's book line. Mark Who 42 is going to be there. I'll be there. We will have a panel about Series 10 and the Christmas episode, so maybe we'll talk about the same exact thing I just talked about today. And Tommy Walker from Netflix Daredevil and Nickelodeon's Henry Danger will be there, along with a lot of other guests, Ron Mars included. I wish you were coming to this, Jeremy. You'd be good here.
Tell them. I'll go anywhere.
I will talk to them. I will contact them this week. Yeah. February 24th, that's a Saturday, a one-day convention. It should be a lot of fun. Just like this episode was. I'd like to thank you, Jeremy, for coming on. Let's talk about Capeless Crusader. Give a plug.
Sure. Yeah, it's a website I write for called capelesscrusader.org. Me and a group of intrepid writers write about comics in context. So it's mostly about comic books and the industry and the business of comics, but also reviewing comics and tackling all of the newsworthy items. And what we try to do is provide it with context and a focus on how not just reviewing whether this comic is awesome or not, but reviewing what it means to comics as an industry and to the culture as a whole. So if you're looking for going a little deeper than just news headlines and clickbait articles, then I recommend going and checking it out. I've been off on break for a little bit, but I'm coming back this week with some reviews and some feature articles. It's a great place to go and keep your hand in the game if you want to read about comics in detail. So that's capelesscrusader.org.
Yeah, it's a great site. I've been there and I've read some of the articles. It's a really fun site. And I want to thank Eduardo M. Freyre for coming to us from Keeping It Reels. You were doing this very same thing last night. How much of it was repeat? How much of it was new for us? Just out of curiosity.
Honestly, believe it or not, it was new. Good. It was like a lot more. A lot more new than brought my game on.
And if you want to hear that show, that should be coming up in podcast form soon. Now, when
at least turn into a podcast? At least about I'd say max about a week. All right. By this time next week, you should be able to hear it.
Yeah, because he does Keeping It Real live on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday. So look for that.
Yeah, usually about 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Yesterday we did start off a little early, but that's because our episode was like this 2-hour thing. So
we've had those before. And Trish, I'm glad you're a member of our team once again. Thank you for rejoining. Making the announcement now, Trish is back on Marku 42. Thank you, Trish.
Yay!
She's also on Keeping It Real.
I know.
You get. Well, see, that's the thing. You get a double dose. Yeah. Well,
I wasn't there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's fine because I'm not going to be doing the show next Saturday because it's going to be a Harry Potter ladies' night thing. So I'll let the ladies do their thing. I won't even. I was debating whether or not to just call in and do my Snape impression, but I think I'll leave them.
You totally should. That's
going to be Iggy, Trish, and whoever else is going to be on the show. Let them have their fun. I'll save Snape for later. I'll find another place to do it. It's their night. So
right. So from all of us at Marku 42, have TARDIS will travel. We'll see you next, or rather, you'll listen to us next time here on Marku 42. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Travel with the TARDIS except when it's on fire.
Yeah, that's usually a bad time to travel with the TARDIS.
Yeah.
I don't want to fall out. That would be bad. But we sort of...
Seatbelts.
Bye, everyone.
All right.
Seatbelts. That's why you do seatbelts.
Marku 42 has been written and presented by Mark Baumgarten, Iggy Matthews, and Trish Helm-Freyre. This episode was edited, directed, and produced by Mark Baumgarten. Visit marku42.net, where you can register and become part of the Hooniverse Army. We can be contacted by email at mark@marku42, subject line, ? You can have Marku 42 entertain at your next event or convention. Go to heroesonhand.com/Marku42. Space Coast Comics is a free monthly magazine found in over 120 locations currently throughout Brevard County, parts of Osceola, Volusia, and Indian River County in Florida, and available in Chicago. Follow them on Facebook to learn more. Doctor Who and its properties are owned by the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. Mark Who 42 is owned and copyrighted by Mark Baumgarten 2018.